Alright, what is up YouTube? It's your boy Raw Rice coming at you live with another daily video. Today I actually wanted to talk about a movie that I've watched about 12 times now and that I just can't seem to stop watching. If you guys follow me on Snapchat, I actually constantly talk about it. I'll always be posting about it. It's really kind of mind-blowing that, such a film exists and that, little people know about it, because I'll ask my friends, have you seen this movie? And they'll say, no, I've never even heard of it. And when I show it to them, they still don't understand it. So I'm kind of making this video to break down everything that I witnessed throughout the movie and that I felt. And if you guys have seen the movie, then, comment below what your thoughts were. So with the title, I know you guys already know what this movie is. It's actually called Mr. Nobody. Originally came out in 2009 and was produced by Jacko Dormel. It's actually a European film, but the entire thing's in English, so you don't have to worry about, subtitles or anything like that. But it's on Netflix, and by far, in my personal opinion, it's one of the best movies you could watch to change your perception on how you see the world. The movie starts out basically, and I'm not going to give out any spoilers in here, and I'm not going to go in depth about everything that happens throughout the movie, but I'm basically going to talk about the principles that I've acquired through there. It's just basic gist of the story. It starts out with an elderly man, and it seems to be in a futuristic time zone, and so you think it's kind of cool because it looks like this utopia of a city, and then you find out that everyone in there is immortal because they have found a way to, basically they use stem cells, and so they're able to regenerate any toxic cells, so they basically stay healthy forever, and they'll never age past a certain time of whatever they choose and whenever they get that injection or however they do it. And so that's pretty cool, but it also means that nobody dies. That means everyone is essentially immortal from dying of old age. So there's actually one person left on Earth, which is Mr. Nobody, and no one can seem to find his identity, and basically he is dying of immortality. He is the last one. He's basically the last mortal that is gonna die of old age. So I know what you're thinking, well, why doesn't he just get we'll just say euthanized. Why doesn't he just get euthanized? Because basically he doesn't want to, because he's holding on to these ideas and memories, and basically he's lived such a full life, feels like he's already lived his whole life in its entirety, and he wants to relive it again. And so I'll get into that in a second. There's actually more behind that than you would expect. The film itself is very confusing. So as I was watching this, I was just kind of like, am I not smart enough to grasp this? Because it goes from one topic to the other, to the other, to the other, and you're just like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? It's a whole slew of events, but basically it starts out his life, and it shows basically how you're created and why you're actually created. And so how you actually know everything, it's just basically your spiritual wrapping isn't giving you the full depth view of everything that's going to happen in your life. So you're basically re-experiencing your life. That's the gist of the beginning of the movie. So as the movie goes on, it basically shows, a young boy faced with different adversities. And so I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but there's a lot of different scenes that tie into certain things. And the principles behind the movie is basically choice. We all have a choice throughout the day, in every second and every aspect. We can choose. Do I want to check my phone right now? Do I want to go outside? Do I want to go to the gym? Everything we do is a choice. Do I want to read that book? And so it really does a fantastic job at examining these principles and really the significance of choice. So our character, his name is Nemo Nobody. So Nemo finds himself in a place where he can't decide between two certain things, and so a lot of different factors play in between these two things. So the movie goes on and he makes one choice, and so you think that's how the movie's gonna go, that he made that choice, and all of a sudden halfway through the movie it gets thrown back to that same exact scene, and it shows another perception of a different reality. And so as you're watching that, you're like, wait a minute, what's going on? We just spent 30 minutes going into this reality. Well, you're about to spend 30 minutes going into the next reality. And so basically it shows how our choices have existential meaning behind them, and how everything that we do has reason, and that every choice is basically the right choice. So with that being said, the idea behind it, the ideology, is that there is no such thing as the wrong choice. Everything happens for a reason. So let's say I fucking drop something and I break it, it was supposed to be broken, because there's another reality basically where I didn't drop it, then what happens in that reality? But I don't need to worry about that constantly. All I need to worry about is right now. So it's basically, it goes into the principles and the characteristics. If you guys have read The Alchemist, it basically goes on those principles basically behind reacting to life versus creating in life. If we're constantly reacting, we're a slave to the system. We can never really break free of anything. We can never have self-manifestations, and we can never really focus on what we truly want. So by dominating the power of choice and choosing that our decision is the right decision, and we keep making choices throughout the day. So when you're faced with indecisiveness, that was a huge principle of the movie, indecisiveness. And so you're thinking, oh, do I want to do this or do I want to do that? Think about it. Think about what you truly want, and then execute right on that. Don't think about what if, because that what if is going to be in another dimension of reality, so you don't even need to worry about that. You need to worry about your reality and what your needs and feels are and how you can satisfy and crave them. As the movie goes on, it's just showing all these different realities, but it's not how you would think. It's not just option A or option B. It's literally an infinite amount of options. I mean, there was one scene where basically his shoe comes untied, and it shows the difference of reality because he stopped to tie his shoe and then someone walked past him that he could have talked to. It's insane. It's mind-blowing, because that's why I've watched it over 12 times, because every single time I learned something new. I think the director did an amazing job with basically going over the principles of reality. And so talking about, do we even exist? That's the main question of the movie. He's trying to find out if he even exists, and he's trying to search for these answers, and yet he knows these answers all along. And I'm not going to give out any spoilers, but I'm just basically saying the principles of the movies is you need to sit down and ask yourself personally, like even while you're watching the movie, do I even exist, and what do I exist for? And in what reality do we even exist in? Do we exist in the mind of someone else, or do we exist in the mind of ours? So I really like shit that makes me think like that, because I mean, I go from binging on Netflix and all this stuff of just comedy and just kind of vulgar humor and stuff. So to watch something that really changes your perception is so cool, and something that's so entertaining, because it's not just a boring movie. I know a lot of informational documentaries and stuff, it's just like, fuck, I don't want to watch this right now. It's something that's gonna humor me, make me feel better about myself. Well, this movie holds all of those things behind it. I urge pretty much anyone to watch this. I guarantee 80% of people aren't gonna understand this movie, but keep watching it. Take notes every single time. That sounds so lame, but I'm serious. Have some friends over, you know, some woke friends or something, and watch this movie, because it's really gonna alter your perception of reality in such a positive aspect. It's so cool to think about it, because here you come in thinking, oh, well, my life is a mess right now. Okay, why is your life a mess? What external aspects are making it a mess right now, and how can you actually fix it? It really helps with your problem solving throughout your life, because if you're just, like I said, constantly reacting to things, then you're not going to have any longevity in your manifestations of what you truly want. So the second you can master the perception behind choice is when life can really begin. Life starts when we choose to choose. And so when we choose to feel emotions, when we choose to do certain activities, when we choose to say certain words to certain people, that's when life begins. That's when relationship starts. That's when we start to build friendships. That's when life literally begins. That's when we can create opportunity, when we choose to put ourselves in that circumstance or situation. Let's say I want to be an artist or something, so I want to get my painting out there. I want to go, so what's stopping you from going out and networking and really trying to build a name for yourself? You're choosing not to do that. So personally, I wanted to be, my creative side of things is vlogging, documenting, and talking. I love speaking, so for a while it's like I was making videos just talking about life, how my day was going. I was really documenting. I was basically vlogging before vlogging was cool. And so that was my creative aspect. So I've really taken grasp of it these past few weeks and decided to run with it with this channel, because I'm like, you know, what's stopping me from making a channel and just posting content and talking and really letting my creative nature come out? When, like, these videos, they're all unscripted. I don't write up anything before it. I literally thought of this topic idea 15 minutes ago as I was in the shower, because I was just like, you know what, that'd be a cool thing to talk about. Wrote it down in my little idea journal, and then I made it happen, because it's a thought of choice. Imagine if I had never made this video. You know, let's say someone watching this, they're impacted by it because I'm talking about the decision of choice, and let's say they're faced with an insane decision right now, and all of a sudden they have the confidence in themselves to go and fulfill whatever that task may be. You know, so the principle of choice is a huge component of life. It's the basis of every life, the choice. You know, do we want to rise or do we want to decline? The choice is always up to us. And so that goes into the idea of every choice is the right choice, because if you don't do something, then you need to hold yourself accountable, but make the next choice when it presents itself. Don't dwell in the back. And one of the worst things that the movie basically talked about is when you go into a state of numbness, and so you choose not to choose, and then you constantly reverting back to that state of helplessness by looking at the past and knowing that you have no control over what's going on in your life. So addressing all these principles, I mean, we're kind of getting off topic for the movie, but basically everything that I talked about is the movie. And so it's such an amazing experience. And so, I mean, fucking 10 out of 10 for this video. This was amazing, and I really encourage everyone to watch this. Here's a simple set of instructions for if you do decide to actually watch this film, which I highly encourage you to do. sit down with no phone or anything with at least 30 minutes prior, so that way your mind can kind of calm down. Because when we're on our phones, we get overwhelmed. We get overwhelmed and we overthink things, and we're just like constantly thinking about like what's doing what, who's messaging us, you know. And it's really kind of scary because we are literally addicted to these devices. So when we put it away, we allow our mind to slow down, and that's when creativity can really start, and we have those nice juices flowing inside of our mind, and we can really focus on something and take its message and values and really apply that into our lives. So when you're watching this, don't watch it with toxic people. If you have toxic friends that you don't really like, let's say you have bad roommates, or your spouse just doesn't share the same intellect or interests as you, watch this movie alone. I've watched it alone, you know, but just make sure you're in a comfortable environment where you can't be persuaded to think of a certain way. You need to think for yourself as you watch this. We are constantly being persuaded. So when we cut out the persuasion and we can sit and listen to a certain message, that's when we can really get an idea and a grasp of, you know, how we think about ourselves and how we can actually change. And that's the beautiful part of things, of alone time and spending time with quality people without any distractions. So yeah, I highly urge you guys to not have any cellular devices around, no toxic people. Just sit down and think. And I have a notebook. So inside of that notebook, I wrote notes. Every time I watch the movie, I write down something new that I learn about it. And it's crazy because it's not like I'm missing information the first time on purpose, but the second time I'll watch it, I'll say, oh, I never even paid attention to that. Or the third time, it's like, oh shit. You know, you finally get the message to it. You can watch it countless amount of times, but you feel like it's still the first time that you've seen it because everything is new every time. You know why? Because your perception changes. You're not the same person as you were before you watched it. And that applies to books as well. You're not the same person before you started the book. So when you finish a book, you're a complete different person because your perception of reality changes. Even if the book sucks, at least you know that the book sucks and you picked up some type of information from it. It may not even be beneficial, but at least you know something that you didn't know before. And that's the power of knowledge, knowing what's not knowable amongst the mass of people in the world and stuff, you know? Knowing something that you didn't know before is one of the most beautiful things about humanity and mankind, is being conscious to certain things, being conscious to our knowledge, being conscious to our emotions, all of that. Yeah, when you watch this movie, I mean, if you watch it for the first time and it just is a little too complicated and you guys don't really understand it, believe me, I was there. I thought for a second, oh, is this movie kind of bad? It really made me think, but like, was it good or bad? Because when it ends, you're just like, wait a minute, I have so many questions, and it just cuts off right there. You know why? Because you're supposed to think after the movie. So after the movie airs and it's done, you're supposed to go and just sit and think, you know, what did I gain from that? And then in a week or so, rewatch it and you'll have a whole different perception, because at least you've got your cognitive development is going, and it's thinking, and you know, the gears are shifting. And so at least you have that mental process going, because imagine if you didn't watch that movie and you didn't stimulate your mind, you know, or even on an educational aspect outside of this movie, imagine if you didn't read a certain book, imagine if you didn't do this or that, you wouldn't have learned a certain skill that you could have acquired. There's an infinite amount of skills out there that you can acquire. All you need to do is match a will behind it. Yeah, you guys, basically, this is an amazing film. I urge you guys to go and check it out. I'm sorry I kind of went off topic on there. It's just, I'm very passionate about this kind of stuff, so when I find a film that matches it, it's very cool. But these principles behind everything that I talked about, they're all included in the film. It's called Mr. Nobody, and it's on Netflix. And so if you want to learn about time control and the art of choice and how everything is the right choice, and you are in the exact position that you are right now, and that's exactly where you need to be. That's where you're supposed to be. Hey, you guys, anyways, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in and watching this video. You mean the world to me, and these videos are really, you know, making me feel whole again. So I just want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in. It really, you know, it means the world to me. So yeah, Team Raw Rice, baby, we're the nation. Ha!